For the folks on the Zoom at home, we're just waiting a couple minutes for the rest of the commissioners to show up.
Ready?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 31st, 2026 meeting of Milburn Township Charter Study Commission, which is called to order. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, be advised that notice of this meeting was posted to the township website. Commissioner Villa, will you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Well, I know you there. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will now call a roll call vote to note those present. Mr. Khan.
Mr. Miller? Present. Dr. Khan is present. Ms. Parker Lentz? Present. Mr. Dunham?
Here.
Mr. Drucker?
Here.
I know we also have Council Mike Collins, seeing mentioned Collins in attendance via Zoom.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
Thank you. The record would show that we have a quorum for this meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I second that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any commissioners with reports since our last meeting?
No.
No? We're all good? Thank you. This is like one of the last times I'm gonna have to say this. Public comment. Speak during the public comment period. Please follow these instructions. Ensure your Zoom display name shows your first and last name. Click the raised hand button. You will be called upon in order and promoted to panelist. Please turn on your video when called to speak. Clearly state your full name and whether you are a Milburn resident or business owner to facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. A reminder that public comment period is an opportunity for residents to share their views with the commission. The commissioners will not respond to questions or engage in dialogue during your speaking time, but will carefully consider all comments. At the end of the public comment period, questions and discussion may be addressed at the chair's discretion.
Jeff Bell, I was at the SID meeting. I did not make your great long meeting last week, and I want to compliment you on that. I watched it. I think you should be praised for how open this whole process has been. I think the frank and honest discussions about how many of you, over the course of 2 or 3 months, your positions evolved from what it was when you came here. And I think that has to be recognized. After the meeting, various posts have come up. I think it's very important when you create your report, you dispel the rumor and falsehoods that are coming out on social media. That you have appendices showing how many meetings you had, that the meetings were recorded. I think there was, by attending the various meetings, I know one civic association was not that helpful for you to getting the message out. I think that should be part of your report. Also, I think as part of your report, I mean, Corey was always talking about when he ran in the primary against Tara. I ran twice in primaries, and that should also be mentioned, that my opponents did not debate me. And because I refused to sign a loyalty oath to one party, I did not get nomination. But I want to compliment you on what you've done, especially the honest discussions that you had. I think we had to dispel some of the falsehoods that are coming out.
Thank you. Anyone else then? Anyone from?
Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak, you may raise your hand. No one wishes to be heard.
Okay, I now close the public comment period. Are there any comments from the commissioners regarding any comments made by the public? See, no. Oh, do you?
I don't know, I mean, to dispel, I guess I haven't paid attention to that particular part, so maybe I'll try not to look for people, you know, who are. I didn't see what negativity was out there yet. I figured we'd wait on, you know, after today to decide what we are listening to in the public. I'd love to have public meetings and answer questions, but, you know, people are attacking. I don't know that I definitely got an attacked sort of text message this evening, that we weren't transparent and that we didn't hold enough meetings and that we didn't hold meetings at varying times, that we didn't hold them on Saturdays or Sundays, which of course the biggest meeting that we had was on a Sunday. And we've invited everybody and tried to send in information. So I was kind of shell shocked on my way over here, like, wow, person chose to send me a message like we just did a bad job of getting it out there. And that's why she chose not to show up, because she knew that it was a foregone conclusion. So that was kind of interesting to me. So I guess it came to my house to myself instead of, you know, looking for social media, but that was surprising to me.
I know when we scheduled the meetings, there was an intention to have meetings on every single day of the week as possible. I don't think we've met on Friday or Saturday for good reason.
Friday we've done.
But Monday through Thursday and also a Sunday meeting.
We tried to do it after, whether it's after work hours or after kids go to bed hours, and I know we discussed it because we wanted to make sure that people, and certainly people like us who could actually make the meetings, you know, like I think all 5 of us, with the exception of one, do have, you know, I mean, I have hours during the day I can make myself available, but if 3 people are not available from 9 to 5 necessarily, we would make ourselves available here and there. I think, again, from my experience working on Rocktoberfest for as many years as I've worked, it's hard to get people to come out for doing things for free and then just showing up as volunteers listening to things until it becomes somewhat more heated. So I think we did our best. I think we're very transparent about the process of how many days we're gonna, you know, switch it around. And we chose the Sunday that was a pivotal Sunday where we actually had the majority of information out there for people to make some judgment calls. And we chose to do that with food and refreshments.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wow, that's so interesting that, you know, I mean, I baked focaccia half the day and worked on it Saturday the day before. So I don't know how much more we could have offered except for every Sunday session and Thursdays, but that's just not what other charter studies have done. I think we conducted ourselves in a professional manner. So it's just like it's just, you know,
I think
interesting.
anyone who complains or alleges that the process wasn't open to all and accessible should be very careful, because we have a clear record, a recorded record. And so if they want to maintain that narrative, they'll just get proven wrong on record, on videotape. And so it's fine.
It was just a surprise.
And I do recall Mr. Feld had a meeting early on where he couldn't attend, but he emailed his public statement to us. And I believe I read it into the record and it's in the minutes. So,
You did.
you know, I don't think it's for lack of trying that we've tried to engage the public to the extent possible.
I was gonna address it at the next public session, you know, comments and everything. But I also have received some interesting emails.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the folks here know we did a yeoman's job. Just to let everyone know, before this started, before we were sworn in, we had a meeting at Joanna's house, and we all said, we're going into this with an open mind. Well, and we all come from different backgrounds and different political affiliation, and we had major league discussions. I had discussions with Dr. Khan,
Well,
you,
when we met with
Joanna,
everybody,
you and I.
we're always here.
Corey.
But I think the bottom line is we had that meeting with people who lost to us in
Yes.
order to involve them, where there was also a lot of focaccia served.
Mhm.
And I felt like, you know, we had the open door policy, we had a very transparent, you know, beginning of that process, like, hey, we're not sworn in yet, but before we do, we wanna make sure that everyone sees us here, gets to know us. We tried to answer as many questions because there were some people who actually had no idea who we were. You know, and that's fine, because it's not as small of a town as we think it is, so, you know, we wanted to make the people who lost to us feel comfortable that any comments they wanted to make or suggestions or things that, you know, and we followed up, and we had the focus groups in between as well, you know, including visiting people's personal homes to get their different opinions. So I felt like it was very transparent. I felt like we were trying to reach out to get as much information. And this is the busiest time of the year where people are actually around. So I think, you know, we'll definitely debate, I think tonight, some dates, but
I think that was the hallmark of our studies, is to make sure we got as many opinions as possible. I say this in my work life and in my private life, because I reserve the right to be smarter tomorrow than I am today. And I specifically wanted to hear as many opinions as possible, because my opinion on certain things did change, and I wanted to hear alternate opinions, and we did. I have no regrets about the amount of outreach and publicity and varying days and number of meetings that we had. And so if people want to choose to create this narrative now, that's fine, we have a record.
Well, look, I don't think we need to encourage looking for certificates from anyone.
No.
I know in my heart that we went into it with an open mind. We debated a lot of points. We tried to address issues that were identified as issues that need to be addressed in our local government, and the ultimate judge are gonna be the people of the town when they vote on our recommendations.
Right.
We leave it to the people to make their own judgment, and we
Correct.
can only make a recommendation.
right, we recommend, everyone else votes yea or nay for it, and that's what this is all about. It's about somebody else's vote. We each get one vote per person.
You have no apologies.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. New business. Discussion on the next steps and timing.
So I guess before we launch into this, Mike, could you give us an update as to where the report drafting is at?
Yeah,
I don't know,
certainly.
Suzanne.
So Suzanne's been taking the lead on that. She and I sat down today to go over where things are at. So we've made very good progress. We have basically most of phase 1 and phase 2 down to paper. I think we now need to work on addressing some of the phase 3 considerations. I know the commission gave us guidance over this past weekend on basically all the questions that we need to now fill in. So that's outstanding for us to get handled. And then obviously we're going to take notes on where the commission lands tonight. And then that will basically, I think, give us all the information we need to get a draft to the commission for its further review and consideration.
Did we provide notes to them about our interviews?
I have not, I will do that.
Mike, we have some additional notes for phase 2 that we're gonna get to you. Just
Okay.
a few interviews we did with Red Bank and Madison
Sure.
representatives. So.
That sounds great. Yeah. Whatever disclosable information that you have, please get it to us. We'll do our best to make sure it's a part of the report and as comprehensive as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
So I think it sounds like the report is coming along nicely. I think there's sort of two options, at least in my mind, that are on the table in terms of timing for how we can proceed here. So part of what we need to determine is A, when the referendum for the question to adopt the recommendations goes to the voters, and B, when, if that recommendation passes, there would be a new form of government, and when those elections for the council members in the new form of government would take place.
So we have to go over if this, then that.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it's probably important for public to understand how each one of us is feeling about the if this, then that scenario. Because change is always hard. I think that's part of why there is gonna be scuttlebutt and people, making comments that might be perceived as negative, maybe they don't mean it as negative, but, I think just the fact that there is a potential for change is very difficult for a lot of people to handle, and especially people who've lived in this town for a long time. And I know we've had representatives of, the town that have lived here forever, and also forever, from both sides of the aisle. So I just would love to explore with all of you guys, since we don't have a chance to do this, as a group. If this, then that, the positives and negatives that each one of you are feeling, because I feel like, we each have slightly different opinions, I'm sure. I too started with this one on a different page when I first started thinking about it in the beginning, where I was like, well, what happens if we finish on this date? What happens on this date? I know certainly in my own life, I have certain dates in my life that are extra crazy or extra busy, and I think others do too. I know that there's dates throughout the summer that make people crazy because they're, away, so not available, which makes me crazy for Oktoberfest because I'm always looking for volunteers. And for you with 4th of July coming up, there's just, we know how people function from a volunteer perspective. And I think getting them to care about things like this will also be something like us soliciting, them to care about the things that we just volunteered to research. So it's another bit of work for all of us. So just trying to figure out what that means for each one of us to go out and make sure that people are paying attention once we make this last decision.
Right.
So I think that's gonna affect the dates.
Can I ask council a question? Mike, is there a precedence of putting a draft report out in public?
Yeah, that question's come up in both of the prior charter study commissions that I've represented. While you guys ultimately set the rules, I would advise that I think it makes the most sense for the commission to work with my office on an attorney-client privilege basis when we have a draft and work product circulating, and that ultimately, once the commission is ready to take that out of draft, to then vote on it. I think that to put a draft report out would really kind of create a chaotic process where there's certain drafts circulating publicly. I think this commission's been very transparent about all the components that go into the decision making. And what I can tell you is that in each of the 2 commissions I've represented, there was always some public concern about, well, what's going to be in the report, asking that exact question you just asked. And in each instance, everyone was very satisfied at the end because everything that's in the report is simply reflective of all the meetings you guys have had. So, I always say that, the Supreme Court doesn't put a draft opinion on the street and then a week later issue its opinion. Like, the opinion comes out and that's the decision. And that's how I look at it.
Well, fair point. Well, let me ask another question. Have you seen a precedence where the commission voted on a report, approved it, but that report didn't include the draft ballot question yet?
Well, I think the ballot question is simply going to be a reflection of the direction the commission shared at its past meeting, and so that just needs to be reduced to the Faulkner Act framework. So, I don't really see what the way the question would be worded as anything that's going to catch anyone by surprise, because it's just us following the statute. It's basically dictated to us.
Well, the reason I asked that question is, I think the Faulkner Act permits us to amend the report in case any of us have or all of us rather, or majority of us, want to do that until a ballot question is submitted? Because after the ballot question is submitted, the Charter Commission is kind of disbanded, right?
Correct. And in the reports I've
My point is,
prepared,
if we vote on a report, sorry to cut you off there, but if we vote on a report that includes the ballot question, after that meeting, the commission doesn't exist anymore. So in effect, there cannot be any amendments to the report in case any of us want to rethink our positions. So when I was reading about this, it felt like what disbands the commission, or not disband, but the right word is dissolves, I guess, is submitting the ballot question with or without an interpretive statement. So I'm wondering if there is a way to separate the two, to just give some time for people to digest the report itself.
I mean, I don't. I will say there's. I'm not aware of any legal restriction on a draft report being put into the ether.
No, the report will be final. We just won't have the question.
The ballot
I think you're
not dissolved.
To be honest, I think you're then getting a little. I think you're getting a little gray with the statutes, because the statute really provides that, you know, the referendum may take only. And I apologize, I'm picking up some of the conversation, but under Section 12 of the statute, there's basically 4 different options that the commission could follow. One is to keep the current form. Another is to petition the legislature, which we all know is not something that's very practical, or that it could go recommend a Faulkner form. So it's implicit, if not explicit, that to recommend a Faulkner form, you need to recommend a referendum. So I think that you'd be getting into a situation where it could be argued that you're not really following the statute, because if the commission's intention, as it has expressed already, is to recommend a Faulkner form, the proper procedure for that is for you to approve the question. And, you know, procedurally, as I've handled in both Bradley Beach and Red Bank, the reports I've drafted have the report itself and then a resolution explaining the terms of the question and the interpretive statement, which have been attached to the report and then immediately submitted to the municipal clerk, which is the process that's prescribed. So if you don't follow that exact process as the statute intends, I think you're opening yourself up to different questions being raised.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is the statute does provide for a potential amendment to the report within a year, not within a year, not after a year, at least. So we wouldn't have, if we're dissolved, there's no question of an amendment. So I'm just wondering how the statute is handling that. But again, there's no other forum for me to ask you this question, so I thought I'll bring it up now. But
I recall a provision similar to what you're referencing being in there, so I don't discount what you're saying. But at the end of the day, the report is a document that's obviously intended to be persuasive, but it's not dispositive, because ultimately all the report does is support the question that you guys are putting on the ballot. So whether there's some sort of mechanism to amend the report at a later date, perhaps if someone's name is improperly spelled or something that needs to be cleaned up, I don't think there's going to be too much legal concern on my part about whether that could be done or not, as much as making sure that the ballot question, which is really the whole purpose of this commission, is able to be effectuated legally.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Dr. Khan, why don't you lead us off in terms of timing?
Sure. So in my mind, there's sort of 2 paths forward, and feel free to stop me at any point in time if anything I'm saying is unclear. So there's the sort of path that Red Bank took with their charter study. I believe they placed the recommendation question on the November ballot following their charter study. And then they had May elections in the following year to select the council people. And then as part of their charter or study recommendation, they said, we recommend that the newly elected governing body move the elections from May to November, which they did. So that's sort of one path forward. The other path forward, and council can correct me if my read of the statute is not correct, is within 60 to 120 days of the filing of the report, we can schedule a special referendum where that referendum question is the only thing that's on the ballot. And I believe as long as that referendum is more than 75 days prior to the November general, then the November general election would, provided it passes at the special referendum, the November general election would be the selection of the new council people under the new form of government. So that's sort of the two paths forward in my mind.
Any estimate of the potential cost of a special election?
So that's a good question. I had to sort of preface that because with either of those options, you're sort of faced with the cost of a special election, right? So either you're appropriating money for a May election or you're appropriating
Right,
money for a
right.
special referendum.
Right.
Now, the risk in my
Is one more
mind,
expensive than the other.
I believe the May one would be a little more expensive.
So if this, then that scenario would be, I guess, let's talk about two scenarios. If we have a scenario where November is the date, right? And
Date
people
for
are
the
voting,
referendum.
the date for the referendum and for regular elections, that people are doing. If it does not pass, we're done, right? That's it. If it does pass, there is now going to be a special election. Because I think if people are tuning in now, they may not know that, right? So if there's a special election now, it will have to be next May of 2027. So that special election is the one that we're discussing costing X
Versus the
Versus
referendum
having-
special election.
special election for referendum. So in either case, there's a referendum and a special election. It's either referendum, special election, or vote for candidates, special election, if it passes. But if there's a referendum and it doesn't pass, then that also,
Then it just
it's just dissolves and done.
yeah.
Right.
Well, there could be I'm thinking aloud, I don't know if the answer is yes or no. There could be a third path where you do the referendum in November and the next election is in November, or it has to be May? Meaning, the lame duck period can we just ignore the May and just do it the next November?
I believe it is possible to do it in the following November,
So,
based on I think Asbury Park did it that way. That was around 2012, 2013.
I don't like the idea of that because then people are there for a year and they're not
Right.
That was-
gonna
yeah.
be there, so I'm not sure I
So
like it.
they've run
but-
for a year and they're running again, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, so,
Essentially, you've dissolved the government while at the same time elected people to serve
For a
one more
year.
year in that
Yeah, that
dissolved
doesn't make
government.
sense
Yeah.
either.
One
If-
consideration.
We were.
well, I just wanna make sure we know the paths.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
like that idea, but I just wanna make sure that we know the
Yeah.
options.
Right, but you were saying one idea?
So if we're talking cost, just so the cost angle.
Well, let me.
Right.
We were given $40,000. 60,000.
We budgeted 50 for council and 10.
All right. 60,000. Do I hear 7? Okay, so we were budgeted through township committee and $60,000. We spent $6,000 total so
Is
far.
that so far, but we still
So,
have a
so
report being
the
prepared.
dough shouldn't cloud someone's mind, you know?
Mhm.
I think we have to focus on the momentum that we have right now, the information that we have given, and I've gone over in my head 1,000 times, and I am in favor of the June 16th ballot for the folks in town to vote on.
What, this
That's
June?
that's where my head is at. Of Corey?
So what I was saying, just from a cost perspective, because I just think it's worth having the discussion on the record, is that in theory, if we had the referendum vote as part of the November election, then if somebody were to put the cart before the horse and consider a short-term thing of like, oh, well, I don't want to spend any extra money, and so I'm gonna vote down the referendum, and then it gets voted down, and so there's no additional cost in theory, because then you won't have a May election.
Well,
Well, like, so
In
if
November,
we, if we have the
in November.
referendum in November,
Right.
and people think that having additional cost, one-time cost is so abhorrent that they should,
Oh,
you know.
I understand. What you
but do we know the number? Do we, I don't know
so
what the potential election.
I don't know the
25
exact number, I think, I, 25 grand is the
25 grand.
requirement.
Oh, okay.
But I'd have to check with the clerk to confirm, cause
Yeah.
my recollection is a recall was 50, if I remember, we'd have to check with the.
So 25 to 50 is the range?
Yeah,
So it's not
yeah.
significant.
And
compared to-
what does that cover? That covers what, renting equipment?
Hiring election staff, voting
Right.
machines,
Printing.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
mail-in ballots, et cetera.
So I just put it out there, I don't necessarily think that logic flows at all, meaning like, you know, I think it'd be completely short-sighted for somebody to vote this down because they don't want a
Oh,
one-time
yeah.
cost in a
Right.
Yeah,
special
yeah,
election,
I
when you're
think-
talking about a
Well,
Right.
fundamental change to the government and the long-term benefits to that, but I'm just saying.
well, if it's 50,000 or less, I don't think cost is a consideration.
Right.
I mean, it's not. You
Yeah.
just think about what is the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, so that's just one consideration. The other one is, look, we did a lot of work on this and, you know, we think it's the right path forward, so, you know, which is gonna get the most viewership and people to actually show up and vote for it, in June.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's our, and then I want your opinion. That's our job to get the folks out, to get the information out, to promote this, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, that's our job.
Yeah, on the one
And,
hand, it's by
and
itself.
the folks who like the referendum, you know, to get the word out
Yeah.
also.
Can I ask council a question on that point again? Sorry,
Sure.
Chris. So Mike, assuming the report has the question, we vote on the report, I think that means the commission's dissolved after we vote on the report, including the referendum question. Are we allowed to meet and promote the recommendation? Can we kind of, so to speak, campaign for it, or are there any restrictions?
or have public sessions where
Public
all of us can
sessions,
continue to
whatever.
meet like this, or, you know, like, talk to people, answer
By
questions.
law, by convention, are there any restrictions on what we can say or do as former charter commission members?
Yeah, so like you guys have been saying, the statute does state that once you make a recommendation, the commission is dissolved. So you're no longer, in my mind, Charter Study Commission members because the Charter Study Commission no longer exists at that point. So based upon that, if you all chose to gather, all 5 of you or 4 of you or 3 of you, in my mind, it doesn't implicate the Open Public Meetings Act because there's no public body to quorum. So I don't see any restriction in any of you exercising your First Amendment rights to advocate for or against the charter recommendation. The only real applicable law is that you or anyone else in the public would definitely need to abide by any campaign finance restrictions imposed by the campaign finance law in New Jersey, which is enforced by ELEC.
Well, that's my next question, Mike. If we decide to use the monies that were allotted to us to put the referendum on a flyer, okay, and disseminate it to the township people, can we say vote yay, vote yes?
Definitely
Or-
not.
Or.
He knows the
so-
answer to that. He
so-
wants
So
the
we
public-
we cannot do that. I know that.
Don't scare me too much, Chairman.
I just wanted to get that out
He
there.
wants the public to know what the questions and answers are,
Right.
right? I'm
Yes.
assuming that.
Yes,
I was like, I know the answer to that.
but, you know, we all put our own dough up, you know, before we ran. And so if we put up our own dough to make 10,000 flyers and say, vote yes, Can we do that?
I would say that you can do whatever you want. You'll be in your role as private citizens as long as you comply with New Jersey campaign finance law.
Right, that's what
Well,
I
I think
was.
more
that was-
importantly, it'd be nice to actually appear in public together where we can actually say, come ask us questions.
Well,
Where is
that's
the
really
support?
what I mean.
Right, I know
Yeah.
that's what you mean, and
Right.
I saying yes or no, obviously, if we recommended it,
We all.
we
for it.
obviously agree, so it, that's where we got to. We may not have agreed all at once, but we got to a place of agreeing. So if we are appearing in public sessions that are not public because we're no longer commissions, we're appearing in public, or holding office hours, or just saying, hey, reach out to us and we'll have a focus group for you or something. Make more focaccia and just answer questions, but I feel like people can then ask us how the process was. They can read the report, or they can get the Cliff Notes versions, or they can watch the videos and kind of see how we got to the place we got to. I certainly know from a lot of people that supported me personally, when I'm like, come to the meetings, come, let's go, like, dude, we support you because we voted for you. So a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to those meetings. I know, I feel like I trust you. So the folks that I had, they want to vote, but they didn't want to necessarily come attend. So I was like, why aren't you coming? Why aren't you coming? So I feel like at this point, for the people who don't know us and didn't necessarily vote for us, it would be nice for us to be available and accessible. I'd rather not be, having pitchforks out there saying that we did something wrong, but I'd like people to ask questions like how we got to the place that we got to.
So it's interesting that so it is also reminding me of the text that you seemingly got, apparently you got emails. So from that perspective, I'm like, all right, so on the one hand, having a June election, it's out there, it's out in the open.
Well, it's not summer.
Right, no, but I'm
Right
saying
before
like,
people go away
I'm
from
saying
it,
it's by itself, it's by itself on a ballot, there's no hiding it, we're not, on the other hand, do we face somebody saying, oh, well, you didn't have it in November, which is when most people come, but if you have it in November, then it's
Oh, it's so
amongst,
diluted.
yeah, right, it's amongst other issues like Senate race and local race and stuff like that, so, yeah, I think that's something we have to consider, is like, all right, if there is going to, or there not going to be, if there is noise of, hey, you should have had more meetings or had it on different dates or something like that, it's, under the surface, the allegation is, hey, you weren't transparent. I suppose having it in June is like, here you go, it's the only thing here, you
Right.
can't say we're hiding anything.
Well, I mean,
Right.
that's the thing, like, when I first thought about this in theory, when I read my materials about the process and about the charter study commissions that happened before us, I was like, oh, we're gonna take this amount of time, and it's gonna take a nice long time, it'll be very leisurely, and then we'll appear next November on the ballot, and that's kind of what I thought would happen, because I thought it would make it easier for everybody, it would take longer. But when we got started with the meetings and we got started with the interviews and the momentum was there, I was like, wow, now I've learned a lot from this one. Now I want to talk to this one. I have to ask questions for this one. Like, I wanted to make sure that it was top of mind for the people. Certainly when you and I started, Chris, I was like, wow, the momentum was so there for us. And we work on momentum when we work on these volunteer projects too. We know how, like, when you have that momentum and people are really excited and involved, they care to ask the questions. They'll support you. They'll tell you they don't support you. They'll say they give you opinions. So I feel like we were getting a healthy, amount of opinions that were pro or against all these positions. That I think most of us vacillated quite a bit on most of them. I too vacillated because I really thought November, it's the perfect time for this study to get voted on, to get the referendum on there because the most people are there. What I didn't think about until maybe a month ago was if you now have the referendum in November, the election's not happening. So now you have two people getting voted in who are spending their hard-earned money right now to get voted in. And the disruption of two people changing, and they get, in January, what happens, like between November and January starts to be like, whoa, what happens?
Then they have to spend more money
right,
potentially
so-
if they wanna run again.
So now the other thing I was thinking is like, when we were interviewing our business administrator, he's like, well, the most disruptive, and actually municipal workers too, like the most disruptive time period where we don't necessarily get as much done, the clerk said the same thing, and other towns said the same thing, is sort of between November and January, and then January, you've got a new mayor coming in, so January, February, and I know from my time of trying to get Rocktoberfest on the agendas, they're like, don't come in this time period, no one's here then, don't come then. So now I can't rely on, getting things done in July, but I also can't do things, this time or this time, and don't do it in January or February. So now what happens to regular business that has to get done? Now that's disruptive because not only if they have yes for the referendum, not only do you have two people who are like, well, I just got voted in, I'm getting sworn in, I've got to run again if this is a yes. And that's when I was like, wait a minute, now that's a cluster. And I'm like, well, what happens with that? Cluster focaccia. It's a cluster focaccia. And I'm all concerned because I don't know what to do about it. So my dough is rising. And I'm like, I just don't want to create more havoc for our locals. And I don't want to create more havoc for the folks who are running. Because I know how hard it is to run. It took us quite a bit of, effort, a little bit of money from each one of us to collectively share. But if these people are, looking for real campaign money, what happens if they're only there for a short time and now they have to rerun again? Like doesn't seem fair to them either. I was like, if good candidates are coming aboard to run, it would be great to give them a chance to really run for a longer term. So that's what kind of concerned me and made me a little bit panicked about a month ago, where I was like, wow, okay, so now what's the other option? You don't want to do it in the summertime because yes, the summer is absolutely slow, and trying to get anybody to come out to do anything when they're vacationing, dropping kids up to camp, going on their own vacations, going to pick up kids from college, from the summer program, getting them to the next program. Like there's so much, or just regular family travel. You're an empty nester, you don't have kids at all, and you're traveling. You're going to your beach house. I get so many people who are my age or older, and I'm like, come work with me on Rocktoberfest because you don't have kids around anymore. They're like, dude, I'm fishing, or I'm at my beach house, or I'm somewhere else. So I understand the resistance more than anybody, because for 10 years I've been trying to rally people July, August, and September to do anything. And it's like pulling teeth, begging, bartering, and I'm sure you feel the same way for
July 4th, yeah.
July 4th, right? So you have a July event.
Especially this year because it's on a Saturday, so people are gonna be going away, but that's just
But
another
it's a
headache I have to
250th.
deal with.
But the thing is, those of us who are in the volunteer world, which certainly the three of us as organizers, understand the challenges. And I know I get into my panic-stricken moments, and I'm like, I've got interns I've got to recruit for Oktoberfest. So how many people can we actually get on board to hear what we're saying or care about it? By the time we get to November, my concern is they're gonna be like, so what'd you decide about the charter schools?
Right.
And like all of our hard work, like what would piss me off so much is if what we just accomplished in doing this hard work, and having this debate and having the forums is all for naught, when some people are just like, the apathy comes back in. And not only that, they forget about that question or what it actually means. People are involved in voting for their local people. Now we potentially are wasting their time if this form of government changes and they have to rerun. And now the other thing I worry about, it's gonna be a little contentious with elections in November, not locally, right? So if we are no longer gonna be the local focus. If we care about, like in Verona, what I loved from that mayor is his transparency, seeming transparency about, how they all deal with things, and that the town comes out and talks to them and like they really care. By the time we get to November, they're gonna care about this or about the local elections. They're gonna care about the things that are gonna change bigger picture items. We are in a global firestorm, and people are fighting with each other for so many reasons, about global wars, about who's responsible, about warmongering, about all these things. And I feel passionately as well about that. I almost want my focus then to be like really on the things that are more global come November. And I think other people might as well, and we might get lost in the shuffle. We're little, and even though we got a good amount of votes for our commission, I just worry that come November, we're gonna be like really not important to people, and whether they won't understand what we did, there won't be a chance to explain it to them. I think we have people's ear. I think whether you're against the decision that we made or for the decision we made, or you have no idea what decision we made, it would be a great time right now to embark, just like we embarked really heavily on getting our interviews done for the new year because we knew people were going on vacation. So for you and I, it was like a strategic time, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose people come December because a lot of people were extending their vacations. We're gonna lose them the first 2 weeks of January. Now we're gonna interfere with their time of dealing with new elected people. So let's try to get municipal workers done by this date.
Yes.
It was really because it was strategic so that we can get people's attention. We wanted their focus to be on us. I now feel again, we're in this place of we have to make sure we get people's attention, we're not gonna get them later.
So all this. talk
Dr.
about-
Khan, Chinook, you wanna go
All
next?
this talk about focaccia is making me hungry. So you're saying special elections, is it?
I mean, look,
I'm just trying to.
So it's
see what-
interesting,
what they have
'cause-
spoken, I just wanna see where they are.
so it's interesting, cause my original thoughts were to have a November election
We're dying in
because.
November, you are
Yeah,
dying.
because it's more people are going to show up for that. The question is, hey, does showing up mean that they'll still be informed? Because like you said, there's other stuff, there's up ballot,
100%.
Senate race, all that kind of stuff. Because I agree, I don't wanna do all this work and then have somebody not pay attention to it. So, you know, you get more people showing up in November, so that's a positive in my mind, and that's sort of where my head was originally at. Quite transparently, I just said this, is like the fact that you guys are getting garbage texts and critiques now almost sort of swings me like, okay, then let's shine a light on this thing. Let's do it in June. Let's shine a light on it. That way we can't we'll make it the focus and like.
Well, it will be the only focus. I mean, there's something to be said about the big fish in the tiny little pond, and we've got a cute little pond right
Yeah,
there.
the question is,
And
how we get people to show up and actually vote?
Well,
Chinook,
to stay where I am, I think this is a very important question for the future of the township. It deserves its own little election. I don't want the focus on this question to be diluted by other considerations.
But you want November too,
I
so
wanted November too, but I thought about it. And I agree with you, Joanna, that it's not fair to the people who intend to run in November to then be running again potentially in May.
like,
So,
we could find out
for all
whether
the
this is a yes or
reasons-
no. Like, it come like, if it actually is June,
right,
and
then we have a clean campaign one way or the other. in
right, then
November.
people are running and they're like, okay, I've no one else to compete with, it's just the two of you guys. Or we are considering like,
Right,
so-
so again, I am for June just because I think it's a
I don't know if you.
very important question for our future. It needs its own, it needs its own
because we're gonna have
consideration.
public comment shortly.
Only just because it gets
It's very
picked up on
sensitive
that.
camera, not camera.
So I'm for the special election.
Dr. Khan,
Yeah, I think in my mind, the worst case outcome is if people start detracting from the recommendation for, minor nitpicks, right? So a minor nitpick in my mind is, say for sake of argument, we did a November referendum recommending a May election. Someone might very reasonably say, well, I don't want to spend money on a May election, I'm gonna vote it down. Well, that's not really the spirit of the recommendation, right? So the spirit of the recommendation is the form of government, but if someone says, well, no, it's gonna cost money and not really engage, then there's the secondary consideration that is sort of not sort of in the spirit of what we're trying to recommend out there. There's other issues as well with November. I do think the clarity, benefit of having its own election is a good benefit in June. When it starts getting intermingled with November, now people don't know, am I voting a TC member in for 6 months, 3 years? I remember seeing feedback when we got elected, because by state statute, when you do a charter study commission question, you have to ask the question yes or no, but also at the same time vote for people. So I remember there was a bit of a hurdle there in terms of educating the public that yes, you need to vote yes, and you also need to vote for this slate of 5 people. And then people would say, well, what if there's no more no's than yeses? Then, well, no one gets elected, right? So I do think there is something to be said about the benefits of having a clean separation for each step. I think you can very easily communicate to the public, here's your June referendum, that's one decision, yes or no on the new government. Great, if it's yes, then November, we're fully transitioned over to the new government, and there's no overlap
Or we're not, people are just voting for
For
whoever they're
whatever
voting
they
for, who's running in
Yeah.
November.
and there's less dilution on that ballot as well, in that case, right? So I do tend to agree that June is, in my mind, has many benefits over, putting it on November.
And I guess to flip the coin for a second and play devil's advocate as I'm, hearing myself creak up there. If there is a no in June, June's our date, then it's a no. If it's a yes, the 2 candidates that are currently running, right? They're up for election and 2 other candidates, so there's the 4 candidates theoretically gonna be running. Now we're gonna have those 4. The others that we're not prepared to run will have to run. So I know that they're already elected, I feel like they have, and they were recently elected. Ish, Ish.
One person was.
yeah,
Well,
Right.
is there a last date by which people have to get on the ballot for November?
I think it's, council can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 75 days. So for a nonpartisan election, similar to the BOE, it's 75 days before the general, you have to submit. your
and partisan,
petitions. Partisan would be different, I don't actually know,
Well, I'm
because there's
curious.
primaries.
That
There-
Got
the
it.
primary,
Sorry?
There's a primary
or,
the
yeah,
primary.
for partisan.
There's a theoretical one.
Right.
got it. Yeah.
Well, my point is, even if we do a special election, there will be enough time for one way or the other for people to get on the ballot for November, right? That's not gonna be an issue.
Yeah,
Well, in
that's
theory,
not an
and
issue.
in theory,
That's not
everyone
an
who
issue.
is on TC will want to continue their time because they were just elected to
Well, we
continue
don't,
their
we
time.
don't, they can choose not to, we don't know that.
They can choose not to, but in theory, like, if they're there and everyone's happy to be there, why wouldn't they
Yeah, I agree
win?
with
And
you.
they
I
all
agree.
won, right? So,
Alright, so,
in theory,
so the timing works is my point.
Yes, yeah. Okay, any other commissioners?
it presents more work for the people that were not planning on running.
Yes, it creates more spots.
Right, so like, I mean,
Well, two
like
people.
you just said, like, so Jamie was just elected and Michael were just
Right, so
elected, so
we're
they
just
were not
elected.
anticipating having to
Correct.
run again, so they would in theory have to say, oh, okay.
Right.
Great, now I gotta run again.
Correct, so now those two are the most impacted because they were just there. The two that are running would be most impacted, or actually the four that would be running against each other would be most impacted for November. So we're impacting four,
You mean
or
if we had the referendum in
If-
November and then
if, if.
and it got passed?
correct, if. It's just if this, then that, it's the if that scenario. So if nothing, then it's over, right? If the public just says, we're good. We don't wanna explore anything else.
Mhm.
So it's just figuring out the impact, who we're impacting.
I think it's better in all respects, whether the vote is yes or no. It is
Well, then
better
people
for
know
people.
where they stand.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Without wondering what happens in November and then creating a giant, because it's the same time period, because if it's a yes for these
Right,
next
and if
months,
it's a
or it's
no,
a
then
yes.
there's clarity
Right,
that they're gonna
that's
have their
clarity.
vote.
And if there's a yes in November, then there's another election for all the same people that are impacted.
Right.
Except now you've got two more people that just got elected who are, could be new or could not be new, that have to
Right.
rerun. So it just seems like it's a headache either way, but it seems like the quickest one that gets it done is like rip the Band-Aid off. And I feel like there's a Band-Aid song coming behind us here. We might have to.
There's
jingle.
also some administrative overhead, if just for the sake of argument, do November referendum and then May election. You have sort of that 6-month lame duck period where in those 6 months, the budget gets determined. So when Joanna, when you and I spoke with Alex McDonald, the budget process is March through May. Now you have one cohort of people determining the budget. You change over to the new form of government in July with the May election. And now you sort of hamstrung the new people in the government. This is like their first time starting a new form of government, and now here's the budget, you're stuck with this for the rest of the year. It's sort of not setting them up for success.
No, that's an important point.
Yeah,
And I guess the other thing, just, to make sure we are fully comprehensive, there's no guarantee that, a May election would be moved to November. Now, in Red Bank, it did happen, but depending on,
Elected body.
yeah, it's up to the
Oh,
elected body,
got it, you
so
mean, got it, so when they do that, right, they decided,
that was the
right, that's what Ben was
first order of
saying,
business,
Ben
they moved
Forrester
it
was
from
saying.
May to November, but
but yeah.
it, depending on who gets
They
elected. we
kind of
could-
give themselves 6 extra months of term.
they
in a
did,
way.
yes.
Extra or less, depending
I
on who
believe
draws the
it's
shorts.
but they gave all of them extra 6 months, because instead of doing May
Got it, yes,
2025, it went to
yes, they did, right.
Alright,
So,
so putting it in June puts more options in front of the people.
but also
I mean,
makes it
clear
cleaner,
options.
because now you don't have to deal with the May going to November the following year, okay?
Right.
So I think we're all,
And I do think the
And then
momentum
this-
point is really strong. I remember when Joanna, you and Chris, you emailed me, you're like, we finished all of the TC interviews, and it was like the second week of December. I'm like, wow, that was really fast.
Yeah.
You know, I
Municipal workers, yeah.
and there's something to be said, you know, we've been living and breathing this for 5 months now, essentially.
Well, it's easier to
Every-
dive in,
Yes.
right? And I think we're all deep divers here. And when we get involved in something, we're like all in. It's, you know, what I see, what you guys, I knew this was gonna be. But I feel like we all dove in. So it's like to dive into this process now and to see it abridged and stalling would seem like it's counterintuitive.
Right.
In my opinion, that's where I came into this evening, and I was, like I said, a different place a month ago, and I know you were like in a totally different place, because I was like, there's no way you're gonna see it any differently, but I feel like, you know, I guess what changed your mind is knowing that if people are already getting inflamed and the action's gonna happen, I guess maybe to, you know, our public comment earlier, maybe people are commenting now. You know, sometimes the negative attention is not terrible because it gets other people involved. So at the moment, while there's potential even for like, oh, well, you didn't do it right, or you didn't have enough days, maybe there is a great time to be like, to capitalize on that. Let's talk about that, let's have a
And
conversation.
then also, quite frankly, if there is negative attention, at least the election's in June and we're not stretching this like. negativity out to
true.
November.
That is
Yeah, I'd really like
true.
to focus on Fourth of July and Oktoberfest, not negative.
All right.
Okay, I would like to make a proposal for the special referendum for June 16th.
And
I'd
that's
like
like Tuesday?
Tuesday, June 16th. I was gonna do a straw poll first, but now I think we should go to each commissioner and say,
You want a roll call?
On a roll call.
Before we vote, and this is, I don't know if it matters, but I just looked, June 16th is Milburn has an early dismissal that day. I don't know if that means anything, is that good, bad, or?
There's, the schools are no longer polling places, so.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but it like, it looks like, I just want. School's not over till,
18th is graduation.
oh yeah, so that, yeah, that is.
So they're not leaving.
right, and
Well, I mean, I don't know when summer camps are. The summer camps, I don't remember, but you could have summer camp drop-offs on Wednesday, so you lose some people who go to summer camp, because
Well, what happens on the 9th?
June 16th works
I think,
in a lot of ways, going forward to November, you know, and everything like that,
I think
so.
it needs to be 60 days
Yeah.
after the filing of the report, and I think
Right.
the 9th might be a little
Oh,
tight.
that's too
Yeah.
tight for,
Yeah,
alright,
Right,
we
we
just
want-
have
we
to
want
be
more
aware
public
that
comment.
there's a certain segment of the population who are either bringing their kid. Cause Wednesday's a big drop-off day for sleepaway camp, that Wednesday.
Yeah, but the polls are open.
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll have $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have graduation on Thursday, and
Well,
prom is probably Monday, so
how
there's
many
going
people
to
vote
be.
by mail-in ballot general these days? Like-
Depends on
On
what
what
gets
it
changed
is.
in our
Right.
federal government.
Oh,
So the point is there will always be some people who are not available but they have the option to make their voice heard.
Only voting.
I just, again, all things being considered, that is going to be a busy week.
that's okay.
well, but the thing is, if people can do mail-in voting, and if you can do early voting,
I don't think you
Not
can
early
do,
voting.
there's no early voting
Right,
for
early
referenda,
voting.
yeah.
Right.
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 But mail-in is.
Mail-in is, yes.
So then mail-in, if we tell people by this date, mail in your vote, because we were doing that for the commissioner stuff too, like mail in your vote.
Yeah.
How far before do we have to have a mail-in vote?
So you can register to vote by mail up to a week before the election, I believe. You can register to vote by mail in person up until 2 days before, I could be wrong. But you'd have to submit your mail-in ballot form to the clerk's office in Newark. They will give you your mail-in ballot.
Well, no one's going to
Right, no
Newark,
one's-
just go submit.
So basically,
That's
a
the
week,
special
a
event.
week before the election is essentially when
So
you
week
need
before the
to.
election, so if they're not already mail-in ballot people. So if you're already signed up to do a mail-in ballot,
You'll get one.
You'll
You'll
get
get
one.
Yeah.
And that could be part of our campaign.
Yeah.
You know,
use
if
your
you
mail-in
just-
ballot, so you don't have to do
Or
it.
if you know you're gonna be out of town, here, fill out you can vote, you can register to vote by mail for just the next election.
Mhm.
And if someone doesn't want to do it in perpetuity, they could just register to vote for mail for this one.
I can definitely see, though, we would have to address, there will be some people presumably saying, hey, they hit it in this week because they wanted to hide it in this week because of end of school and stuff like that, so.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
we're gonna get bows and arrows from certain segment of the people in the
Well, there's people
township.
who
And
wouldn't
then,
watch
and
the
then, and then
videos,
we're
who
gonna
aren't
get
see it.
extremely positive feedback from people. Remember, I speak to a fair amount of people, and 43% of the folks here in town are unaffiliated. And the feedback that I'm getting from the positive folks are all for this. June 16th is not gonna make a hill of beans to these folks.
Well, I think that
So-
the seniors in high school will actually still be around because they have to
That's-
graduate, so
That's true,
that does help with.
that's
Yeah.
true. So with that said, Dr. Khan, will you please do a roll call for June
So
16th?
did you make a motion?
Well.
Is there a second?
Did make a motion.
Or, sorry, I think Joanna.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
I don't wanna dismiss it because I think that, you know, again, you're retired, I'm an empty nester, you don't have kids yet in the school district, you guys are the ones that have
Yeah,
people there.
my point is that last year I had a kid graduate. That last week in particular, because there was a 30-year-old decision that hasn't been overturned to have prom in front day of graduation, which is nonsensical. My humble opinion.
We're not voting on
That
it
week
today.
was redonkulous last week, especially because it was like 1,000 degrees. And so you had prom on Monday, practice on Tuesday, which would be this election, then graduation on Wednesday. It was crazy. And then as having kids who were like, 15 and 19, I do remember going to sleepaway camp that Wednesday. And so, packing for camp. Well,
That seems like an early
Well,
early.
that sounds like
voting.
you were here, that's what we
Yeah,
want
you
people
were
to be
here.
I was what?
You
You
were
were
here.
here.
Not traveling.
You haven't left yet.
You haven't left.
Camp is the following, camp's
You
not
could have
until.
voted.
No, I mean, if you're dropping kids off, if you have to go to camp to drop them off, not that I'm going. I know.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that it means
Means
most
you
likely
were physically
people
present the
are
Tuesday
not gonna be
prior.
traveling that week.
So and look, we're only talking about seniors, and so that's a limited
Yeah,
group of people.
Right.
I just wanna make sure that we're all going in with our wide open.
Well, if we're trying to do it before people go away, I think it's either,
It's not even just go away that they're distracted. Like, I think you're gonna have most senior parents not gonna think about going to vote in some special election on that Tuesday. But again, that's only a fraction. And that's also, by the way, senior parents at the high school, not private school, who probably already graduated. So it's probably a marginal fraction of the.
well, but if we can hopefully enlist, like if we know that people are having this as an issue and we target senior parents and we go to the, whether it's Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups, and we ask people in the school district to say, hey, can you just, before you go to the seniors, blah, 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 we have a coffee or something for your senior, pick this up for your senior when you vote. I don't know if there's some incentive for people to go out there and hear, show their support or not support, just to actually have their voices
Yeah,
heard.
but again, the size of, the percentage of the population that,
It's maybe small, but we don't want them to feel like their
Right.
voice doesn't matter,
and
so
that's why
maybe.
I'm bringing it up, yeah.
Right, and I do wanna be cognizant of that, but I know, like, I'm probably one of the busiest people I know, so I still make it out to do the things that I've gotta do. If somebody is gonna care enough,
and
they're
if
gonna get
not,
out to
you
vote.
ask.
If they don't care, they're not gonna go out
And
tomorrow.
if not, you ask Chris Drucker.
right, exactly, go knock on their door, but I think the bottom line is, if you care enough, you're gonna go to vote. If you don't care, you're not really gonna go vote that day, and you're not gonna go vote in November,
And I do think,
for any of it.
we should try to, I think the 16th is a Tuesday, scheduling it on a Tuesday because people think Tuesdays are elections.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I
think the
was gonna say
special
on
election
Monday.
for the replacement for our congressperson, that was scheduled for a Thursday, which quite honestly, I almost forgot to go vote in the primary because the primary was also Thursday. And so I do think, we're not
People
trying
tend to look for Tuesdays.
right, so we're not trying
Tuesday's election day.
to, pull a gotcha on anyone, we're trying to maximize, the attention to it, and I think Tuesday is.
Well, frankly, Thursday after graduation is not better.
No,
Yeah.
Thursday is graduation, right?
Right,
Oh, is it? Okay.
well, I
That's
think
worse then,
anything,
yeah.
I think anything in official summer months when people are really like out of here, I think that's terrible, can't happen.
Well, one thing since we're talking about this, private schools end maybe first week of June, so.
Yeah.
Summer vacation will be there for the private school parents already on June 16th, but it's what it is.
Is it too early for them to vote by mail?
No, you can vote by mail is 45 days before election day,
Right,
So we would
so
then have to expand our audience of people to target to be like, hey, vote by mail for the
Right.
people. And again, we're presuming that every private school parent is taking off at that point and all their kids are in private school and they're going on vacation.
Well, my point is, there's always gonna be a group of people for whom any
Something is
particular
bad.
date is not gonna be great. But we're trying to at least say that for most people in town, they would not have begun their summer vacations yet. So hopefully it's a date that works.
And plus, folks are gonna hang in town for July 4th.
Well, it is
We
the
have-
250th
It's
celebration,
250,
and we
so-
do have.
We
kind
do
of
have
a-
expanded celebration back in Taylor Park, rides, games, all that kind of stuff, so.
All right,
you know, you
All
can
right.
do Tuesday, July 7th.
Right.
I'm kidding, but
I already made the proposal. Dr. Khan, will you please?
I think we need a second, so you're making a motion
To
for
have,
the recommendation for council to be a special referendum on
Referendum.
Tuesday, June 16th.
June
I
16th.
second.
Second.
All right, I'll take a roll. Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Kung votes yes, Ms. Parker Lentz,
Yes,
Mr. Tenna,
Yes.
Mr. Drucker.
Yes.
All right.
I'm very surprised at you. Thought you were a diehard member.
No, he was a holdout. Michael, thank you
No,
for
I-
coming,
right,
Michael.
That's my concern.
I'll be watching.
My
No,
pleasure.
we
I
need
taken my
you.
notes here. June 16th it is.
I think
But,
so.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, there is.
Council, did you get that?
Yeah, are you good with me departing? Is that
Just maybe wait.
No, different Michael, you address it.
Oh, no.
The second round of public comment.
Just wait.
yeah, okay. I'm in no rush to go. I just want to make sure I'm taking your leads.
Right. Okay, we did that. All right, public comment. Speak during the public comment period. Please follow these instructions. Ensure your Zoom display name shows your first and last name. Click raise your hand button. You will be called upon in order and promoted to the panelists. Please turn on your video when called to speak. Clearly state your full name and whether you are a Millburn resident or business owner to facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. A reminder that the public comment period is an opportunity for residents to share their views with the commission. Commissioners will not respond to questions or engage in dialogue during the speaking time, but will carefully consider all comments. At the end of the public comment period, questions and discussion may be addressed at the chair's discretion. And since I'm the chair, anyone that wants to speak, we will have dialogue.
We have someone in mind.
All right, let's have the Zoom person online, please.
All right, we have Beth Rawl.
Hi, hopefully you're hearing me. I don't know if my camera, you
Yes.
told me to put it on. I don't know if it's working, but, okay. Beth Zoll, I'm a resident in town. And for those who may not know, I have, already done the effort of having petitions signed and submitted my paperwork to be running as a candidate, in this November election. So I appreciate, at least the acknowledgement that, the decisions made tonight will have impacts on a few folks, and I understand I'm in the minority of who it impacts directly, but it certainly does have an impact. And I'm still confused about some of the things that were decided tonight. One, this 2026 year, we've got lots of elections. We've got special elections. We have an election for the seat that was vacated by Mikey Sherrill. We had a primary. Now we have an upcoming election. Now you're proposing another special election. We also have the June primary that I'm going to be on the ballot for June 2nd. And now you've just kind of rushed. You spent 35 minutes talking about whether it's a rush and how to get it in 60 days. And it just feels a little forced is my reaction. I also am not understanding when the actual election would be. If you do this in June, does that mean that you're voting for a whole nonpartisan 7 folks in November? And would I need to re-petition for that? I'm just trying to understand how the process impacts me. And I also think a lot of people are going to be confused about this, and having 2 special elections 2 weeks apart just seems not a smooth idea. That's from my perspective. So we also have bipartisan nonpartisan Board of Ed elections in November. So I'm gonna pause there to clarify because I feel confused and a little bit rushed on this process. So I'll pause. Thanks.
Thank you. You could,
So, I mean, we can clarify as far as timing goes. So,
For legal counsel to clarify?
Mike, you wanna do it?
Is that a
or-
question for our legal
As
counsel?
far as-
Because it might be more simple the way you explain things.
Well, most people think attorneys complicate everything.
Well, then they're not gonna get anything better from me, Mike.
I guess the general question is what would happen to a current candidate for township committee if the referendum on June 16th were to pass? Given the timing, that yes vote would occur a sufficient time in advance to allow for the new governing body to be elected through the November 2026 general election. So that would then be on the ballot, and you would have 7 seats for council on that ballot. Any candidates who are interested in filing for that election, which would be nonpartisan based upon the recommendation, would file a petition 75 days prior to the election. That would be the statutory deadline. And so, anyone, I guess, who was running for township committee because they filed for the primary, or you could actually have an independent candidate file in June, any of those folks would be eligible to file in August.
So,
What happens to, for example, Beth Stahl, who just did the petition?
well, right, and so let me, I
Can
was
she
gonna,
use her petition for,
no. So Beth and Bill, who have submitted petitions to run, they would have to resubmit petitions, and I acknowledge that that's a pain in to have to get signatures again. But I would also argue that it's having run in an election, the actual running is a lot harder and a lot more stressful. So if we were to have voted for the referendum to be part of the general election in November, then you would have had to run your entire election in November. And then if the referendum passes, you'd have to go through that entire process of getting on the ballot again, so collecting signatures again, and then going through a campaign again, which is exhausting. So at least in this scenario, yes, you have to recollect signatures, but you would have had to collect signatures and run again, so it's more of a burden if the election was in November.
I think in my view, this is the least disruptive option for the current candidates, is how I see it.
yes.
I mean, nothing is completely non-disruptive, but it's the least disruptive option.
Charles Van Barra, 30-year resident of Northern Shore Hill. I prepared a whole statement and then I decided not to say it in the first public comment because I trusted you. And I said, I was interested in hearing what you had to say, unjaded by my opinion. And I have to say, you got this right. You hit all the points that I had written down here. The one thing that I perhaps think you didn't say enough of that's important also is confusion. I mean, I would just see in November, what the heck am I voting for? I'm voting for candidates, but I'm also voting for a referendum, which if passes, what did I even vote for these candidates for? So I think the confusion part of it, you killed it by just making it now. I think, the time is now. You folks have met, you've done an admirable job. I can't praise you enough. It's in the public eye, as Joanna said, so it's ready for a vote. I mean, why table it for 8 months? You got the momentum, and and if you need to send out circulars and everything else, and there's a cost to it, please come to the public. I'll contribute, I know others will. I believe in this, I believe you did the right thing. And I'm behind you 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Right, so
I'll let you go first, Beth.
the only thing I'd suggest with the council and that we make sure we got all the performance deadlines to make the June 16th special election. What things do you have to do by statute? Like, when do you have to have your final report done? When do you have to have the referendum question approved? So we have that, we don't miss those deadlines, and then this all becomes moot. And just when you do that deadline, answer the question, like what Beth Bell said, that what is 75 days? What would it mean for this November? You know, what is the August date, and how many signatures do you need? Because I think that it'll probably mirror the Board of Education deadline for candidates, but I don't know about the number of signatures that are required. But I think knowing what the deadlines are, performance deadlines, but you have a report, I think you just maybe lit a fire under your council, you know, to have his report done and the referendum question done, you know, sooner rather than later, so you can make the June 16th deadline.
Can I?
Michael, can you please answer that?
Yeah, certainly. So, like Dr. Khan had mentioned, the referendum has to be between 60 and 120 days of the approval of a final report. The 60-day being the minimum. If you take 60 days off of June 16th, that gives you Friday, April 17th. So the commission would have to vote on the report, I'd say between now and the 17th. So we'll certainly provide real-time feedback when the report's available for transmission to the commission. If there's any kind of attorney-client conversations we have to have, we could have those. And the commission will need to schedule a meeting if there isn't one already calendared within that time frame for that final adoption.
And
Well, I was waiting for final report from council.
Yes.
So,
that's what we're waiting for.
yeah, so we're waiting for you before I make the final meeting.
And I very much appreciate that. I will tell you all that if you want to schedule the meeting for the week of the 13th, the week of April 13th, we'll make that work. That will be sufficient time for us to get the report finalized. If you would rather wait for us to give you a little more detailed feedback and then notice the public, that would work as well.
Oh, I guess we didn't ask your opinion. Can you get it done that fast? Sorry.
We've been working on it in anticipation of, needing to get it finalized in short order.
Is there anything that we can do from our standpoint? Because I heard the stress in Beth Saul's voice, like, oh my God, I just did this. Is there anything we can do to try to help, not streamlining the process, because I certainly wouldn't be the first to pretend to know what the process is, except for gathering those signatures. But I mean, obviously, we knew how difficult it was for us to gather signatures and what it took. So is there a way to get the same people who signed her petition? I don't know how many people signed, but what it took. Yeah, is there a question from the public?
I can make public comment, and I think I can address a number of these things.
Chairman, would you like to call on people?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Hi, Frank Sacmandy, and I'm not speaking as mayor tonight, I'm speaking in my personal capacity. So as far as collecting signatures, anyone that's run for office knows that you have to collect signatures. You guys have all done it. In fact, you guys have to collect a lot more signatures than a candidate for local office would have to get. So as Mrs. All knows, because I've seen her petition, she simply went to the Democrat committee members and got all of them to sign her petition, as well as their spouses, and then some of her neighbors. So I imagine it can be done in very short order. It's not a very difficult thing to do. Something that I did, something that Ben did, and something that everyone up here has done. Getting signatures is not difficult to do. If you find it difficult to get those signatures, then you're going to find it even more difficult to actually get elected. Because if you can't get people to sign their name, you want a ballot, not going to vote. So I wouldn't worry about that. I'd like to commend this commission on their hard work and all that you have done. You guys have left no stone unturned. I think you've done a fantastic job. I think the decision you arrived at to have the primary on its own is going to be in the best interest for everyone. I'm sorry, the referendum on its own is going to be in the best interest of everyone, because the people that are going to come out to vote for it are the people that care, the people that actually are paying attention. And I think that's going to be a good thing. It's going to keep the national politics and all of that out of it. And it's going to let the voters really focus on what they want for the future of their government here in Milburn. And I think that's part of what this commission was about, to find a better form of government so that we have a better way forward. So I commend you on that. I also think it's going to allow for everyone that wants to run in November to have, all summer, they'll have a full campaign cycle, because the referendum is very close to when the primary was, and granted the primaries were uncontested. Really, most of the campaigns don't really start in earnest until after that primary season. So I think that everyone's going to be on a level playing field for whoever wants to run in November. So I honestly think you guys made the best choices, and I commend you for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more person online if you want to go first, or
Let's do
Okay.
Leah.
I just want to commend you guys also. I go to the township committee meetings and I have to say our township committee is great now. They get along so well and they're just smart and thoughtful, and I feel the same coming to hear you guys speak. So don't listen to the haters. I mean, there's always these Johnny-come-latelys who, it's like with complete streets and affordable housing, all of a sudden something happens and say, oh, how did this happen? Well, you weren't paying attention. And it's very clear from listening to all of you that you are so thoughtful and so deliberative. And I really appreciate it. So, good job.
Thank you.
we have someone online, Cheryl Damaris.
Cheryl?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Cheryl Damaris, 35-year resident of Milburn. I just want to make 2 points. I know you've made your decision, but I think when you were formed, it wasn't only the commission that thought that the vote on the referendum would be in November. I think the general public was led to believe that the referendum would be in November. And I just want to bring up that point. And I also want to bring up what Beth said, is that there is a special election in April to fill Mikey Sherrill's seat. There is a primary June 2nd, and this election would be June 16th. So you're going to have, if you do this election on June 16th, you're going to have 3 elections in a 3-month period. And I just not sure you are fully considering the impact of that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One more.
Oh, one more.
Hi, everyone. Regina Truitt again. Thanks for your service. Just a couple of comments. I agree with what Ms. Zoll and also Ms. Desmarais just stated. And I also wanted to just comment that our current mayor, Frank Saccomanti, who is running against Ms. Zoll, by the way, is making the statement that Beth Zoll did was to get signatures from members of the Democratic Committee and their spouses. To date, when I last looked at that, they got nearly or over 80 signatures. So that's way more than there are in the Democratic Committee. And so that statement is false. It's also very partisan. I'm just laughing at the irony of trying to get rid of partisan politics when, of course, you have people very partisan who are on your township committee right now, including Mayor Saccomanti, who just made that comment. And then the last comment about don't listen to the haters, I'm going to say that's exactly who you should be listening to. The haters are residents too. The people who don't agree with you are exactly the people you should be reaching out to. You should find out what's on their minds and how you can serve them. Because to listen to just the people who are agreeing with you is probably not even half the people, or maybe half the people. But you should absolutely be listening to the haters and the people who disagree with you, no matter what your point is. Thanks.
And
Can I reply to that for 1 second?
yeah, go ahead.
I visited haters in their own homes who told me that they totally disagreed with me. And I was absolutely happy to hear opinions because that's exactly what I was there for. We open ourselves up for as much transparent, dialogue and focus groups and begging people to invite us to their homes and meet with them. So I absolutely agree. I want to hear all the opinions. And I wish that the opinions would have shown up, for the past 16 meetings, because it would have been great to hear many more opinions, in addition to the ones that we were formally soliciting.
I echo that wholeheartedly. I have been begging people to show up and participate from both sides. At the meeting on Sunday, when we had members of the public that I knew represented positions on both sides of it, I specifically made a statement to the public to let everybody have their opinion because we want to hear everyone's opinion. I reached out to people who I knew were opposed to this and I asked them to please show up. And I told them when meetings were and I asked them to please show up. I even made a notice that I gave that all they had to do was send it out. And I said, please send it out and please show up. And guess what? Nobody showed up until today. We tried. That's all we did. We did our best to try. I specifically tried to get both sides in the room so that we can deliberate with both sides on the issue.
There were people from both sides for our last
I have
meeting.
no regrets about the process. Absolutely
Can
zero.
you clarify my comment? I don't know, I know you're not probably supposed to have another.
Let's not turn it into a back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, my comment about don't listen to the haters was now that you've made your decision, because you clearly did listen to the haters, because I heard you say that last week. You listened to everybody, you were all over the place, some of you changed your mind, so I meant now that your decision is final, you clearly, were guided by your heart and by listening to everybody.
Yeah, I'm Alex McConnell, resident. I just want to say that as we've discussed, as you guys have discussed here already, at the end of the day, this is also merely a recommendation. There are going to be another 2.5 months before the election for the people to make their decision on whether or not this is a good idea or not. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the campaigns out there to educate people even further. So there's going to be plenty of time for people to come up and make an informed decision. And there's going to be plenty more opportunity for debate across the different opinions that exist in town. So I don't think this has been a rushed process. I think this is, and as also discussed, this is going to bring a spotlight to this issue. So I think there's going to be spirited debate for the next 2.5 months, and I think it's plenty of time for people to come to an informed decision come June 16th. So,
thank you.
Okay, let me use the soapbox while I have it still. I think this is just what's happening over the last week is sort of just epitomizes how issues are treated in this town, in that people don't show up in the right times and provide input in time so that decisions are made with everybody's opinion. And then after a decision is made, everyone pretends that they're shocked that something happened and nobody had the ability to weigh in. And yeah, it's true. People now will have the opportunity to vote on it, but that's reactionary. We need to start getting more of a proactive residential participation so that everyone's voice is heard. And ultimately, if a decision turns out not the way you wanted, at least your voice was heard and we had an informed decision. That was the hallmark of what we tried to do in this. No, we didn't try. That is a hallmark of what we did do, is we tried to bring as much in and encourage as much participation. And so if you're unhappy with the outcome and you participated, that I understand. If you're unhappy with the outcome and you didn't participate, that's on you.
Can I ask, how many people filled in the questionnaire we had?
The public input form for our
Yes.
township. Let me just give you a real time because the last time I checked it was 0. But I will look at it right now.
It was 0.
And
well.
it is still at 0.
Right. If
Take a
this,
screenshot, I want to record.
yeah,
Well, I just want to say that in the interest of soliciting public input, there was a form that anyone in the township could have filled and communicated their view to the commission without needing to come to the meetings. And it's unfortunate that our citizens didn't take advantage of that. Having said that, we have always had an open ear. We have wanted to listen to everyone. And to be honest, it's great that we see candidates already signed up to serve the township, and
Yeah.
I applaud that.
I
I
find
applaud
that
that,
really
and
encouraging,
Rizal has
actually.
a Ms. Zoll has a good record of volunteering and service to the town, and hopefully, depending on the outcome of the referendum, she will still be on the ballot. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Just for me, if the referendum passes, I have formulated a recommendation list for the new township council. And I'm not gonna elaborate on what, actually, Dr. Khan and I spent a couple of hours on this. And
Well, actually, this might be a good time to loop in council on it. Mike, if we, beyond our recommendations for the formal recommendation change of government, if we have through the course of our interviews identified some best practices, sort of not like legally binding or anything, just say, hey, this is just a heads up to the people elected to the new governing body. These are some things you may want to consider. Is there space for that in the report?
Yeah, I think if you guys would want to include something of that nature, I think you'll have the report in Word and feel free to annotate it as you see fit.
Perfect.
Because, we interviewed Verona a lot, and their township council, they have once a month, and not in their town hall, in a forum like this, they invite township people to come and just talk, whether it be, whatever they want, positive, negative, what's going on. And they invite their town council if they want to come. So that's one of the recommendations that I would like to see implemented, and I have a list of other stuff, but right now I'm focused on the special, referendum.
So we have two more people online. Let me.
Hi there, Jean Pasternak. I'm a resident, sorry. I wanted to again say thank you to each one of you for the hard work that you put in on behalf of our township. Thank you again. I wanted to just make a couple of points. First of all, I know I've been involved, and I'm sure you're aware, since 2023 in elections in town. And I can say without any doubt, I heard resoundingly throughout the year of 23, 24, and 25, the real depth of interest by so many of our township voters that they would like to see a new form of government, and specifically nonpartisan elections. It's not even close. I mean, you saw it in the vote. 67% of the people voted for Ben and Frank, and that was one of their very prominent planks of their election. And again, you saw it in your own election this past, November, where I guess it was close to the same percentage of people who voted in favor of all of you, and the title of your, your slate had the name nonpartisan in it. So I don't think that this is something new to our town at all. I believe many people are very aware and are very much in favor. So I don't think you're working in the dark at all. I think you've heard loud and clear from our community, and I thank you for listening. And the second thing I wanted to say regarding the petitions, it is a job, but I would have to say, in sort of backing up what Frank is saying, normally what's done is the petitions are presented to the committees, the Democratic and Republican committee members. Both members sign, as well as their spouses, if they have a spouse, and friends of the candidates. And it really, yes, it's time consuming, but it's not like you have to walk the streets, and it's not like campaigning. It really isn't. So I don't think it's difficult, and I don't think it's a real obstacle, given the benefits of what you've suggested for our community in your report to be coming. So thank you again.
Thank you, Jean. Dr. Khan?
We have one more. Mike Becker.
You could have said Mike Becker.
I don't know where.
Michael Becker.
Am I on? I don't see a camera.
You're on.
Okay. Mike Becker, 50-year resident. The reason why first of all, thank you very much. I thought you did a great job and I learned a lot looking at all those videos and reading all those examples and legal transcripts from the other towns. I learned a lot. The reason I believe you did the right thing going to June 16th is when you put a referendum on an election in November, it was like remember we added pennies for acreage in the county and you voted for it. I don't even know if it became so unimportant. I mean, it passed but I think if you're making a decision, yes or no, on something as important as partisanship or non-partisanship, I think to keep it separate from partisan politics, I think that in itself is a good idea, and it makes the issue more important. And I do hope that people aren't gone and they'll show up and they'll vote by mail, and it'll be a very powerful, strong vote. And I'm voting yes. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Anyone else wishing to speak? No one else wishes to be heard?
Any commissioners have anything else to say?
Have a good holidays.
I'm sorry?
Have good holidays for everyone.
I think we still have our jobs cut out for
Yes.
us. I think we have to go out there and educate people on the process that we went through and get people to make up their decisions, whether they agree with us or not. You know, they just need to understand what we went through in terms of the process and the research and, you know, pick our brains. We're here.
I just wanted to make a point I didn't earlier. You know, I don't believe that legally we're required to post all of the videos of our meetings, nor are we required to have a second round of public comment, which, you know, I know that many people have taken advantage of. So, you know, if anyone wants to, you know, complain about transparency, I feel like, you know, we've tried our best as a public body to engage the public to the extent possible. We've gone, I think, way above what is minimally required, and you know, we have tried. And so folks are coming at this hour and complaining about transparency, then I think I agree with what Corey said, you know, sort of on them. It's been on the public record since we started.
All right, now that
Add
go
one
ahead,
thing.
Chinook.
The comment about this feeling a little rushed, I think the decision we recommended to council to write the report on was made last week, Thursday.
Last Thursday, yes.
Yeah.
So our views have on what to do next or where the referendum is going have been public since last Thursday. The election's happening on June 16th. It's close to 3 months of that decision being out there in public for people to think about, deliberate on, debate. So I hope it doesn't feel rushed.
Right.
There is enough time there for people to think about this important question and make their voice heard on June 16th.
And certainly I think, you know, I'm speaking for myself, I'm happy to do whatever, you know, will make that happen. You know, I earmarked time for, you know, weekly meetings to continue meeting until June. If anyone wants to come, we'll have fewer quorum issues after the report is finally filed. But, you know, happy to do office hours, set up appointments.
Do you all see if Bauer Center is available?
You know, I'm the secretary, but CD's the one who makes sure the Bauer Center is available, so.
Good. Now that I have all the commissioners, should we use our own dough to get the flyers out and saying, yes?
I'm going to jump in, Chairman. I would advise that the commission, if the commissioners are going to consider those types of endeavors, those really would not be in your official capacity here as commissioners, and that those considerations be taken to a different venue.
So you're shooting me down, okay.
I am, I'm sorry, but protecting you.
You protected me.
Yes.
Jeff already said no, so.
We're here to answer questions, we're
Right.
here to, you know, I mean, we're here to justify how we came to the decisions we each individually did that became a collective decision. And, you know, and help people understand how we got there if they want to have their mind changed or not, or challenged. If people have made up their minds and are not willing to hear what the process we went through, then we're not going to change anybody's minds. But if someone is approaching it the way that, you know, you said eloquently that, you know, you're willing to change your mind, right? And you know, and I think we all have changed our minds and on different things. I was shocked that you even like remotely considered November, but I understand why, because it's like, oh, shine a spotlight, I get it. If the attention's coming now, let's do it now. So I think Chinook, you were in the same, as we drove over here, like, nah, no, I'm in the other place. So we constantly surprise each other with the things that we're agreeable to hear each other out on, because we do respect each other's opinions. So if the public wants to come here and say, hey, I don't agree with you, but challenge me. Ask me why tell me why I should change my opinion. And I'm happy to have a nice debate about it without fighting with anybody, because if you don't change your mind, fabulous. But I can tell you how I changed my mind on every topic, maybe once or twice throughout the process, so.
There are very few decisions you're gonna make or opinions you're gonna form that are 100% in life.
Some people do. And when they do, you're not gonna ever be able to challenge them.
Yeah, I suppose that's unfortunate, I guess. So just, you know, just engage that intellectual curiosity and just ask the question why, be open to change and hear people out. And it's a lot less stressful living life that way, and you're usually more satisfied with the outcome. And we remain open to discussing our perspectives and why we came to the outcome.
Exactly, because what I found the most insulting to me in the text that I got, where there was a foregone conclusion, is to just say, you know, you made up your mind before it. It's just not the kind of person I am. So it's like, I just was like, wow, okay. And I don't want anyone to think that there was a foregone conclusion. I'd like to be able to explain to anybody who would like to chat with me, you know, to say, how did you come to these decisions? What happened? What made you think, you know, which interviews were most least important? I'm happy to have those conversations with anybody who's willing to have them with me. I'll find the time.
I think in terms of foregone conclusions, I think I had heard at least that certain members of the community had foregone conclusions about, you know, being opposed to whatever we came up with. And so,
correct.
You know,
I was told that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
told that also.
when I went into certain people's homes, they were like, well, I don't care what questions you ask because I'm not gonna agree with you no matter what. But that was also a preconceived notion.
I just wanna, I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just wanna say again, I don't want people to lose, using multiple expressions, lose the forest for the trees, miss the forest for the trees. It's important for us to address some basic concerns brought up in our interviews, that we move to the Faulkner Act form of government.
Right, that's the simplest,
And
right?
that's the main recommendation this commission's making. Now, within that form, there are alternatives, 5 members versus 7, partisan elections versus non-partisan, directly elected mayors versus council elected mayors. All those options, there are ways to change them depending on whether the community likes what we initially recommend or not. Maybe 4 years or something, council, correct me if I'm wrong there, but
4 years, 4 years.
that's what we last heard. So if some people in the community don't like 7 seats versus 5, or some people don't like partisan versus non-partisan elections, recognize that there is a way to change those aspects through the elected body without going to the Charter Commission, but we will not get this opportunity again to change into a Faulkner Act form of government. So let's just not lose sight of that. That is really an important point, and that's why I keep repeating it. Nothing we're doing here, even if you vote yes on the recommendation, nothing is permanent in that sense. There
You don't have to love every part of it.
You don't have to love every
And
part
I
of
may not
it.
love every part of it.
But I would like people to give it a shot for 4 years.
And what I would also like to say, just to piggyback on you, because the last time that we all met, and I said, if I don't like what's happening in 4 years, I myself said, pitchfork in hand, I'll go in and help whoever wants to change things to say, or gavel in hand, this didn't work. Let's try something else. And I'll be the first to like help lead the charge. And you can hold my feet to the fire 4 years from now, because I'm not going anywhere.
But to Chinook's very, very foundationally critical point is that if we don't pass and vote to go to a Faulkner Act government, we can't, nobody has that.
Nobody has
We're
the-
stuck.
Right.
Yeah. So whether
Right.
Yeah,
We're stuck
think that's the critical thing to consider is that you might not like every element of what was recommended in this report.
Right, and it
But
can
what's
go back
most
to five,
critical
right? It
is
can always
the
go back to
base
five.
question of whether we move to that Faulkner Act, because you can always change the other things. I agree, let's give it some time and let it marinate. But at the end of the day is that if you want the ability to change things in the future, then the Faulkner Act is the way we have to go.
Yeah.
Faulkner Act form of government.
Thank you. And that's how come we have you, Chanel, because you're very intelligent, you think about things. Whereas Chris Drucker is a former trader, you know, buy it and just say it's only money. Anyway, anyone else? Thank you, commissioners. I now close the public comment period. Are there any comments from, well, we already did the commissioners. And now for the final thing. I have a motion to adjourn. So move, second, all in favor? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Take care. You bet.